Have you ever walked into a store for just one thing, but then a smooth-talking salesman convinces you to leave with bags you never planned on buying? That's the exact feeling I get when I hear about Zac Efron and the so-called yacht boy life. What started as him stepping into a glamorous New York Fashion Week after-party suddenly spiraled into a scene where powerful men used charm, flattery, and influence to reel him in like a prized catch. The whispers in Hollywood are clear. Zac didn't just fall into this lifestyle. He was lured into it. And the deeper I dig, the more I see that NYFW after-parties are less about fun and more about recruitment. A stage where elite men handpick who gets displayed, who gets controlled, and who gets turned into the next yacht boy. Let me break down how this works, why Zac Efron's name is being tied to it, and what this whole spectacle reveals about the darker side of celebrity culture.
Not only is the yachting industry creepy AF, as the worker, these situations can cause feelings of shame or regret, and sometimes the allegation that someone might be a yacht person is weaponized against them, whether it's true or not. Now, I do want to make the distinction here and say that there shouldn't be an inherent shame in the work itself. At the same time,
go to Cannes, France, and get on these yachts and do things with billionaires that they would not do if they weren't getting paid. One person said, "Can't Zac get a gig on Only?"
Insiders whisper that Zac first entered these spaces as a guest of honor, a star everyone wanted near. But what he may not have realized is that the attention wasn't just admiration, it was bait. The praise, the compliments, the access to exclusive tables, all of it designed to make him feel like he belonged. That's the first move in the lure. You flatter, you reward, and before the person realizes, they've already accepted the unspoken deal. What fascinates me is how much this feels like a magician's trick. On the surface, Zac probably felt like he was choosing to stay, choosing to mingle, choosing to play along. But the talk in town is that these elite men are masters at making the trap feel voluntary. By the time he realized the expectations, smile for the cameras, pose at the table, be part of the display, he was already wearing the costume of a yacht boy without ever asking for it.
Work is still highly stigmatized in our society, and that is oftentimes used against.
Sadly, this is not surprising to me. Now, I don't think Zac is going to create an OF page anytime soon because yachting is a lot more elite than that, and you make a lot more money.
Word behind the scenes is that NYFW after parties are filled with men who hold not just wealth but influence. They decide who sits at which table, who gets photographed, who makes it onto the guest lists next season. Against that kind of backdrop, even someone like Zac Efron can feel outpowered. To stay in the room, he had to play the role they designed. That imbalance makes the lure less about force and more about invisible pressure. I've seen how compliments can be the sharpest hooks. Rumors in the circle say Zac was showered with admiration for his physique, his charm, his perfect fit for the luxury lifestyle. At first, it feels harmless. Who doesn't like praise? But when the flattery turns into expectation, that's when it becomes a trap. The compliments become contracts.
Workers, and in this case, these high-profile workers. So with considerations of their reputation, along with their physical safety, as I mentioned earlier, the stakes are high. So yeah, the concern people have for Zac being tied to all of this is definitely understandable. Even if Zac wasn't engaging in
Zac Efron is allegedly a yacht boy.
Zac Efron earns a big payday while on a luxurious yacht with older men. His net worth has increased by $5 million from other ventures outside of acting.
Speaking of yachting, it is very, very rare that the Svengali lets the former Disney actor out of his sight during yachting season.
A Svengali is a person who controls others with powerful mental manipulation.
The actor from A Family Affair joined a group of friends on a yacht.
Why would somebody with multiple stints in rehab vacation in Ibiza?
What makes these parties so effective for luring people is the parade itself. The moment Zac stepped inside, he wasn't just mingling, he was being showcased. Cameras flashing, eyes watching, whispers following him across the room. He may not have realized that by being there, he was already on display, exactly how the elite men wanted him. Hollywood chatter claims these parties are less about celebrating fashion and more about scouting. The elites treat them like auditions. Who's charismatic enough? Who looks good enough? Who plays along without resistance? I think Zac quickly realized he wasn't just a guest. He was being sized up, evaluated, and ultimately lured into becoming part of the yacht boy aesthetic.
Fortunately, it can sometimes get a bit seedy, a bit creepy with drunk people who think they can do whatever they want. these owners, these millionaires, these billionaires, they're incredibly powerful people, and a lot of the time they get their own way. It's an incredibly secretive world, which like no one really knows much about. The guests just use super yachts as their little playground. They live in this little bubble where they think anything goes and anything can happen.
Work on the high seas, it doesn't sound like an environment that would be conducive to sobriety, especially for someone who has a history of relapse and self-destruction. I mean, this summer he was spotted heading onto a yacht the same day as his high-profile ex, Vanessa Hudgens, was leaving the hospital with her newborn baby. So is it reaching to think that there might be a link here, that he sees yachting as part of his addiction/coping mechanisms? But it's not like Vanessa having a baby is enough to throw Zac off the wagon on its own. The truth is, Zac has been struggling for a long time, and all of the signs have been hiding in plain sight.
Whispers online hint that saying no in these environments isn't as easy as walking away. Declining an invitation, refusing a table, or stepping out of a photo can brand you as difficult. And once that label sticks, doors close. Zac, like anyone else, would have understood that resisting the lure might mean sacrificing future invites, press exposure, or valuable connections. That's how the system keeps people compliant, not through force, but through fear of exclusion. Social media only amplifies the trap.
Just a couple of years ago in 2022, Zac told People magazine that his anxiety was getting so bad he didn't want to leave his house. That was right around the time that an ad for Earth the Musical on Facebook led the internet to speculate about what was wrong with his face.
See that now that chin has more extension forward than it did previously. There's also increased width.
I think that he has had some jaw work. It looks more like an implant, whether that was metal plates or a jaw implant for aesthetics.
Once a photo of Zac at the party circulates, arm in arm, glass in hand, surrounded by elites, the narrative is set. The hashtags, the captions, the tags, all of them reinforcing the image of him as part of the yacht boy life. Even if he wanted to distance himself, the posts made it look like he was already in too deep. Industry buzz suggests that every nod, every smile, every photo at these parties is part of an invisible contract. By showing up, Zac was agreeing to be part of the narrative. By being photographed, he was agreeing to be labeled. The lure is clever because it doesn't feel like paperwork, it feels like a night out. But the commitments last much longer than the champagne. What's more disturbing is how quickly replacements cycle in. If Zac had walked away, someone else would have stepped into his place within hours. That knowledge alone makes people stay longer than they want. Nobody wants to be seen as replaceable. I believe that realization is what made Zac feel lured. Once you're in the game, it's not just about joining, it's about not being discarded. The talk in town is that Zac Efron has long been admired in elite circles for his image fit, youthful, adaptable, but not tied down by scandal. In other words, he's the perfect candidate. Insiders whisper that these elites had their eye on him for years, waiting for the right event to lure him in fully. And what better stage than the chaos of an NYFW after party? One of the eeriest parts of this story, in my view, is the theater of it all. Everyone in the room is playing a part. The elites as kings, the companions as symbols, the crowd as approving audience. When Zac walked in, the script was already written. All he had to do was follow the stage directions, and suddenly he was cast as the yacht boy. That's how lure works. It's theater disguised as freedom. The expensive cars outside, the designer suits, the sparkling champagne, they look like rewards, but really they're chains. Every perk is tied to expectation. I think Zac realized that the more luxury he accepted, the less freedom he had to say no. And that's the cruel trick. The lure doesn't feel like a cage until the door has already shut. Whispers online hint that Zac didn't play the part as smoothly as the elites hoped. Some noticed moments when he looked withdrawn, detached, even frustrated in the middle of the spectacle. Those cracks reveal the truth. He wasn't there by choice anymore. He was there because he'd been drawn into something he didn't fully understand, and now he was struggling to find a way out. To me, the biggest takeaway is this. Even someone as famous and established as Zac Efron can be lured into playing roles he never asked for. If it can happen to him, it shows how powerful and manipulative these after-party cultures really are. Fame doesn't protect you, sometimes it makes you an even bigger target. What makes this whole story so unsettling is how soft the trap feels. It's not cold iron bars, it's velvet ropes, luxury cars, and exclusive invites. Zac walked into what looked like freedom, but every perk tied him tighter. The free drinks weren't free, the attention wasn't casual, and the invites weren't optional. That's the velvet cage, comfort that masks control. People think it's just the elites pulling the strings, but I see it differently. The crowd itself enforces the game. When Zac stepped into that party, dozens of eyes scanned him like critics at a premiere. Who's he with? How's he acting? Does he look the part? Word behind the scenes is that these whispered judgments are as powerful as any direct command. In a way, it wasn't just the elites who lured him in, it was the collective pressure of a room designed to keep him on script. Hollywood chatter claims that every yacht boy arrangement, spoken or unspoken, is a trade. One side gets validation, status, a sense of belonging. The other side gets prestige by association, a fresh face to flaunt, a new symbol to display. I imagine Zac realizing that he was caught in a trade he never signed up for. His presence became a bargaining chip, his reputation used as currency, and once the deal was in motion, backing out meant risking everything. What I find most fascinating is how fragile the whole system actually is. Whispers online hint that even a single celebrity refusing to play along can throw the balance off. If Zac steps forward and says, "I was lured and I won't be part of this anymore," the ripple effect could be massive. Other yacht boys might start admitting their discomfort, brands might start pulling away, and the elites could lose the grip they've held for years. And that possibility, the cracks showing, might be the real reason his story is gaining traction right now. The strangest part of all this is how something as simple as admiration can turn into a cage. People hyped Zac up not just because they liked him, but because they wanted to attach themselves to him. Insiders whisper that compliments like "you're the perfect face for this scene" or "everyone's watching you tonight" were less about praise and more about nudging him deeper into the role. Admiration became the lure, a honey-coated trap that locked him in before he realized it. At these after-parties, every detail matters. The shoes, the watch, the suit, the company you keep. Word behind the scenes is that Zac fit the mold too perfectly. His polished look, his Hollywood charm, his physique, all of it made him the ideal yacht boy in the eyes of the elites. He may have thought he was just showing up to enjoy the night, but his very appearance made him a target for recruitment. In their eyes, he was the brand ambassador they'd been waiting to flaunt. The talk in town is that once someone realizes they've been lured, the hardest part isn't admitting it, it's finding the exit. If Zac wanted out, he couldn't just stop attending. Every move would be scrutinized. Did he get dropped? Did he upset someone powerful? Is he being replaced? The exit itself becomes another spectacle, and that's why so many stay longer than they want. I think Zac is standing right on that edge, torn between breaking free and risking the fallout, or playing along just long enough to find a clean escape. What makes these circles so powerful is how quickly the same narrative bounces around. One elite praises Zac for being the perfect yacht boy, another repeats it, and suddenly the whole room believes it's true. Rumors in the circle say this echo chamber locks people in place. Once the label sticks, it's nearly impossible to shake off. For Zac, the lure wasn't just one man's flattery, it was an entire network reinforcing the image until it felt like reality. But here's where things get interesting. Whispers online hint that the tide may already be shifting. Fans are noticing when celebrities look uncomfortable in staged appearances, and the industry is more sensitive than ever to being exposed. If Zac decides to openly challenge the way elites lured him into this life, it could spark a wave of others rejecting the yacht boy narrative altogether. And once the performance loses its audience, the show collapses, leaving the elites without their most powerful tool. So here's my bold prediction. I think Zac Efron will continue to distance himself from the yacht boy narrative, but the elites won't make it easy. The lure is designed to hold on tight, and walking away could mean losing connections or prestige. Still, I believe Zac is strong enough to flip the script, to expose what really goes on in these rooms, and to choose authenticity over optics. And when he does, it won't just be his story. Others who've been lured into the yacht boy life will see his stand and start speaking up too. And that's when the parade will finally lose its power.